Okay, so thanks everyone for coming on our Content Ideas Hour as part of the Leeds Digital Festival. We are going to try and cover off some ideas that we've had submitted already. I'll go around the team, ask them if they've got any thoughts on the particular idea. They'll chip in. Then if you've got any ideas or thoughts on what we could, on what might add to it, feel free to chip in as well. And then going through, if you've got any additional content ideas that you want us to kind of mull over, just stick them in the contents. So without further ado, I want to look at the first question that came in, which is quite a tricky one. It says, I have an event which is my business launch and I'd like to help marketing to more men. Now, the interesting part on this is a feminine hygiene product, and the person would like to get more men in. And I don't know is the person who sent that question in on the call? No, right, okay, no worries. So I want to start with Christopher Fox, who works for us, who works on our SEO and our copywriting. Chris, have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, let's just be frank. We've discussed this prior to the call. I had that
Hiya, sorry, my video went funny. Yes, it's actually my question. It's not a feminine hygiene product. Our business is for men and women. It's a business for health tech in general.
Oh, okay.
It is a menopause, but in general, our actual business launch is for a business that aims at men and women with under-researched, under-loved health conditions.
Right, okay, that's fine, not a problem, okay.
That was actually one of the things I wanted to raise, because when that question came through, that was one of the main things that I sort of wrote down, was like distinguish, because obviously other people have made the mistake of thinking it was just a feminine hygiene related topic, whereas it's obviously more like health tech. So I did sort of put down like health tech versus femtech, and you know, to make that distinguishment a bit clearer. And I think that would sort of help target the men a little bit more in itself. But yeah, Chris, do you want to elaborate more on your point as well there? Sorry.
And the mic was a bit strange, but did you say that you kind of approach it from a perspective of kind of under-researched health conditions?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So, so for example, in terms of men, there actually is a male menopause, which is a sort of drop in sort of testosterone. So that'll be one of the things we'll be looking at in the future. And one of the other things we'll be looking at in the future is sort of trans health, in terms of there's a lot of pharmaceuticals that you have to take as you're transitioning, but there's little support in creating the right dosage and things like that. So that's on our roadmap for future projects.
I guess from a perspective of getting men involved, probably that's your hook for me, at least. It's the fact that basically you'd market everything down the need. So the need is the medical condition. So that seems the obvious thing to me. And obviously to get men involved with something, scaring them normally kind of works a bit. So I would go down that road. And I would also approach it from some research into what are the conditions that what condition could a man have that he would just never tell anyone about? What's the condition that he would just be like, oh my God, that's like the worst thing that could have happened to me? And I'd go down that road, and then men will get involved because they'll be looking for that condition.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm really keen on attracting is in this space, it's predominantly male VCs, so venture capitalists. So it's about pitching it to them in a way that would appeal, because they tend to hold most of the money in this field.
Yeah, it is a tricky one because it's something that I think women are probably better at discussing than men are. Men are really closed at that, and Chris is right. It's getting men to care and giving them a reason to open up, and then to take an interest, because they kind of need to know. They need to know what problem it solves for them. That's kind of the root of all marketing. What problem does it solve for me? And if they can't see how your product would solve the problem because it's not in their mind, they're going to be quite close to taking that on board.
If you don't mind, I'll just chip in a second. I think from my perspective, so I'd completely go back to the drawing board in terms of the venture capitalist side of things, and look at what's happening at the moment and where your kind of service and product fits in, and why someone might necessarily want to invest in that. You know, we know that kind of doctors' consultations and things like that are being put on hold because of the pandemic. We also know that men necessarily don't go and visit a doctor anyway because of the kind of stigma and the embarrassment of, you know, talking about these personal things. So I'd kind of look at that situation and think, well, what solution does our service provide? What are people's goals in terms of keeping that communication open? So investors, why would they put money into an app or a tech service to allow more men to communicate? And that comes down to, I suppose, their missions and values as a company as well, or as people. You know, are they in that arena where they want to make a difference? They want to be seen to do something to tackle an issue. I'd also use statistics as well to kind of raise issues of how many men go, you know, have difficulties that go unnoticed, and what are the effects of that. So a little bit different, but you know, for example, the eating disorders in men, there's a lot of work being done around that, and the way that those are diagnosed is based on a female symptom list. So talking about things like that in terms of, you know, the menopause, can you almost talk about the symptoms that people can recognize in men, and rather than basing it on just a female thing that they experience?
Okay. So in terms of a content piece, that would be in and around kind of researching that, maybe using, I don't know, it's getting content out there, maybe kind of from a content point of view, talking heads on videos of men who are wanting to talk about these issues, because it is kind of cutting through. If your product isn't talking to men in that way, then your VCs are unlikely to kind of show their interest, kind of from my point of view. Just something I just wanted to pick up on that came up in the comments from Helen. I didn't introduce everyone properly. So I'm Richard Mickey, the owner of Marketing Optimist. Chris Fox works for me and does our SEO and copywriting. Sophie Fryatt does our social media and our ad work. Gemma Burbeck helps us with our PR, and Annie Green is helping us. Basically, you're work shadowing at the moment, Annie. So Annie's with us on a work experience at the moment. So sorry, I didn't introduce everyone, but that's all sorted now. So Leanne, have you got any more thoughts on what we've said?
Yeah, in terms of, it's not just really what my sort of next goal is. So my ask will be at the launch will be about funding, and it's, I don't know, I guess the daunting thing about it is because there is a market for it, and we know we've got the research that proves that it's a sort of very viable business that has, you know, quite a lot of potential for return on investment. It's concerning that perhaps that men won't be interested regardless if it's got a good return on investment in terms of the organisation. So it's trying to pitch that the right way. Again, because, you know, like you were saying, you know, it needs to appeal to them, but if the first product, which already we've got quite a lot of interest from the NHS and things like that, if that can't appeal to male venture capitalists, then I don't know what will.
Right.
Have you developed any sort of customer persona, you know, customer profiles, where you you know, for example, we might develop one that says Barry from Manchester, and kind of going through this hybrid things that, you know, what are his thoughts about men's health? How does he access care? Go through a whole list of questions about, you know, what that type of person is, and then think about, you know, when you're pitching that to an investor, how can you present that this is something that men might be interested in?
Yeah.
You know, maybe he's had, example, you might have had a heart attack 5 years ago, and he's since been scared of going back to the doctors because he doesn't want to find out there's anything wrong again, you know, but actually how can you target that gentleman based on his previous experience, and talk about that. You know, you've already got the research there, which is what a lot of investors will want to see, you know, why is there a need for it, but what we want to do is show how you can almost change consumers' perceptions.
Yeah.
And that should be your goal at the end of the day. You know, what you're wanting to do is change how people feel about, how men feel about accessing healthcare. You know, again, it's the tech side of it. So we know that men like to use technology more than women do. Obviously, that would need backing up by research, but that might be another angle. So by bringing them some sort of digital thing they can access privately on their phone, they'd be more likely to do that than have a face-to-face consultation with a doctor or.
Well, there is a market for that. And I mean, this is assuming that that is a part of your business model, but there's like, I watch a podcast and one of the sponsors is a thing called For Hims. It's an American thing. Apparently it's like for men's health in kind of all areas, in inverted commas, and kind of it means that you don't have to speak to a doctor. You can speak to them. They're like trained online, you know, pharmacologists, pharmacists or whatever, and you kind of talk to them rather than a doctor. Is that a part of your business model? Because that's happening in the world right now. So maybe how we better or different than that? Because
well, we're aware of organisations like that, and ours is slightly different without revealing too much before the launch.
Okay.
All right. So thanks for that. Thank you for your question. Hopefully that's
Thank you.
I'm just going to have to move on a little bit because we've got other people's questions in as well.
Of course.
So the next question, I think this is from Lynn. So it says, we try to vary the content we share, and it seems too salesy to be constantly sharing pictures and short write-ups of our houses, garden, buildings, products. We share fun stuff, interior design and gardening ideas, housing market and planning news, and all sorts of other housing related items. How can we vary our product shares to be a bit more than just, here's one of our houses, come and look at it? So just to give you a little bit of background, Lynn works for Scandinavian Homes, and you guys sell kind of flat pack, although your picture's changed to a cat, I think, at the minute. You guys sell flat pack Scandinavian houses that are kind of adaptable. So yeah, okay. So who wants to take that one? Anyone got any thoughts?
I'll start off if you want.
Okay, Sophie.
So I did have a little look at your social media and things like that, and your website was great. Like there was a lot of like really good pictures and things like that for people to look at and be like, oh yeah, you know, entice them that way. But in terms of like Instagram and things like that, I think it's more like, it needs to be like, as long as your image is like high quality, like your captions are going to show the people like why they should click through onto your website and things like that. I think you can build up your audience that way. I think that is the main part of it, actually, is building your audience. Find the people that are going to want to look onto your website, use your business services, things like that. Because yeah, I feel like there's a lot of potential for the things that I was looking at, but I think it needs to be more like high quality images and things like that on your social media as well. Because if you initially go onto a business page or something and, for instance, it's not pristine sort of thing, like people sort of take a step back a little bit. So that's just something I would suggest. I don't know if anyone else has had a little look at it or anything so far.
Yeah, I think it's kind of showing things like you're doing, kind of spreading the content, so it's not just by house by house by house. It's showing what's happening in the ecosystem. So maybe highlighting things that are on kind of TV shows that are coming up at the moment. What's it called? The guy who builds his own house, and George Clark's Fabulous Homes, that kind of stuff. People are really gripped into that. So even showing details or getting kind of behind the scenes shots of the builds that you're doing. I
was just going to say,
as they're building walls and as they're shot blasting walls, and I'm no construction person, so obviously I don't get that bit. But details of what's happening as they're doing it, maybe interviews with the designers and the construction people that can be short clips, things that grab people in, because people who care about this are really, really bothered about the tiny little details. Chris, do you have any thoughts?
So maybe this would involve an investment of, well, it almost certainly would involve a significant investment of some funds, I imagine, but it would be sort of evergreen content, so you wouldn't just use this once, but things like time lapses of the things coming up, you know, because I've just gone on and they're beautiful looking things, and actually I'm not like, you know, looking to build my own property, but when I scan through my Facebook every day, there'll be posts and they're not always the same kind of thing, but like yesterday it was a guy in Africa who built this amazing house with a swimming pool out of like nothing, like he just dug and it was there, and I was just watching this thing thinking, God, that's amazing. But actually when you watch just a time lapse of something coming together, very impressive. And also because it's such a beautiful product, by the end it's like there's a real big payoff for the viewer. So it would involve a cost, of course, but I think that content, wherever you put it, would serve you very well. So like certainly an evergreen piece of content there, should you have the funds to do it.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Oh, Gemma, you're muted.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so, and just to kind of bring all that together, what the guys have just said, one thing that might help you with kind of deciding on the content and keeping that kind of consistent strategic approach to it is kind of identifying your 3 content pillars. So, you know, when I talk about the kind of content pillars, I'm looking at kind of lifestyle, so lifestyle-based post, which might be, you know, behind the scenes, how does your product fit into your customers' lifestyle, you know, little snippets, you know, the time lapse like Chris has just said, the, you know, really high res images like Sophie said, you know, attracting people based on the visual responses, just the kind of nice things with the quick short captions. And then you look at your kind of product and your service. So, you know, what do people know about the houses? What do they need to know about the houses that is going to make their life better? You know, how could they benefit from a product that you're offering or a service that you're offering? What are your USPs and how do they fall into kind of your product and your service? Can you do like you know, some creative photography, just like a snippet of a particular material that you use, maybe touching it with your hand? You know, is it eco-friendly, that kind of thing? So talking about your product but taking it about and relating it to what's happening at the moment. So everybody's talking, well, aside from COVID, everybody's talking about kind of, you know, how we can be more eco-friendly, reduce waste. You know, what benefits does that have for you, for them if they invest in your product? And then the other side is kind of your business as a whole. So what are your missions and values and how can you get that across through your social content? Because that helps build up your reputation and brand awareness. So, you know, why did you decide to develop this business in the first place? What was your mission and how is what you're doing relating back to that mission? You know, I'm not saying kind of put that salesy comment out there, you know, we are an eco-friendly business, but can you share an image, you know, potentially of your office or wherever you work from, that you've got, I don't know, if you've got a puppy, have you got eco-friendly waste bags, things like that, you know, and it relates back to your mission, but also what it's doing, it's adding that personification to your social media content, which is, again, you know, from a business social media point of view, the corporate messaging doesn't seem to work as well as that kind of personalized content. So putting more kind of who you are, who your business is, few emojis, bit of more of a relaxed tone out there, and that's all going to help as well.
Okay, lovely. Is that all right? Was that useful, Lynn? I think you're muted.
It just reinforced what we already thought, but as you're more aware perhaps than the team, a lot of the things that are being suggested we just don't have them, right, and we can't get them currently. So
okay,
it's yeah,
age old problem.
Yeah, we can't do the thing until we've got the thing, but we can't get the thing until we've done the thing and got the money to pay for the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a bit where we are at the moment. It's not been the best year, so
No. Okay.
yeah. But thanks very much. It has given me a couple of things that I hadn't thought of. So
Good. Okay. Lovely. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. As a freelance researcher, I've been impacted by the COVID context, and it's the case for other entrepreneurs and freelancers and all businesses. As a result, I'm trying to build more visibility for my profile on LinkedIn, but I'm not sure about the type of content I need to focus on. I'm not sure who sent that in or if they're on the call. No?
Yeah, that was me. Hi.
Oh, there you go. Hiya, Fadila. Okay. Could you give us a little bit of context?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, I'm a freelance researcher. I work with research companies and with clients directly. I work on their research projects, and of course, with COVID, a lot of budget cuts have been there. So first budget to be cut is usually marketing and market research.
Yeah.
My work is mainly based on word of mouth. So far, I have been working in this field for 8 years, and I've never really had to look for a client, because once you work with one client and he's happy, you know, he talks about it to his colleagues and to his clients as well. So I'm trying to expand my client base, and for that, I'm thinking that, you know, building more visibility on LinkedIn will be a good idea to do. But I have never done that before, you know, 8 years of like just jobs coming in, really. So that's my question. So which type of content I can focus on without like repeating the same things about research and market research and branding that everyone can already see and find on LinkedIn.
Fine. So
thanks.
My first suggestion would be to go back to all these clients who've been with you all this time, just giving you word of mouth, and get them all to give you a nice recommendation. Recommend you on LinkedIn, get that added. Take all those recommendations, add those to your website if you've got a website as well, get those done on there. If you could get your clients to give you video recommendations, that's even better, and get those on YouTube. So again, people are nervous at the minute about spending money on all sorts of things, but what they do want to do is they want somebody who they can trust. And the one way that people build up trust is by being told that somebody else trusts them. So it's all very well you going out there saying you're great and you can do this thing left, right and centre, that's brilliant. But what they actually want, they don't really trust you when you say that. What they actually want is somebody else to go, I've used Fadila for years and years on all these projects. She's always done an amazing job for me. And the return on investment she's done has been this. So that people go, okay, so I can now trust Fadila. If they don't know you and you need new business, you need to get past that trust issue. So that would be my first protocol. Go back to all your old clients and go, I understand that things might be tough for you in a minute and you can't give me any work, but could you please give me a reference on LinkedIn, or just a written one, or if you know them really, really well, a video one would be fabulous. Another great opportunity for that is to do something like we're doing at the moment. So maybe see if you could interview them. So do a Zoom call where it's just you and them on the call, and you basically just go, so what did I do for you? How was that? What would you tell other clients? And then you've got a recording, you've got that video, you can use that in different places. So that would be my first protocol. Go back to your old clients and get references. Chris, you got any ideas?
Yeah, it sounds to me like this is like a personal branding, like the seeds of some personal branding, which is great. So I think personal branding is a little easier and almost a little more exciting. So you know your industry really well, and you know the industries in which you work really well. But like you say, that information is available elsewhere. You know, how to do this job for that industry. It's a Google search. There'll be many sort of job briefs and descriptions that come up for that, but that's not what the job is. For you, it's who are you? What do you bring to the team? What do you bring to a job that you're employed to do? And how you do that is interesting. A lot of people choose to go the kind of guru, mogul, wizard route. Stay away from that. So avoid that like the plague, and basically instead be genuine. Who are you? Bring you to your business. Maybe a little, you know, a filtered version of yourself is certainly what I would have to do. But you have to bring yourself put you in front of your customers, and so your content will be a mixture of your take on what's going on in the industry, your approach to working with clients, your approach to working on different kinds of projects, all the time, with this theme running throughout it of kind of putting yourself out there and kind of selling yourself as well as your services. People buy, in your case, people. So you have to, you know, that sounds like the job here, but a good mixture of all of those things should see you right.
Okay.
And I guess it's just experimenting, you know, because I think we all do it to a certain extent now. And I think because we have LinkedIn and we see so many people posting so often across LinkedIn, you know, I was in a co-working space not so long ago, and a lady said to me, "Oh, cool personal branding." I nearly laughed in her face, like I hadn't made any attempt to create a personal brand, but apparently sarcastic and acerbic comments on LinkedIn have become that. But you don't want to do that. But you see what I mean? It's, you kind of put yourself out there and a brand is born.
Okay, cool. Gemma, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I was just going to come at it from a different kind of angle, and more just about kind of the way in which I use research, and applying that to how you might be able to generate some more interest on LinkedIn. So one of the good things is, and anybody who works in kind of the PR industry will understand this as well, is that when we're trying to make a claim about anything, we base it on statistics and research because it's valuable. And generally people in the business industry, the type of people that you're wanting to target, will also value that kind of research too. So if you can be seen on your LinkedIn, you know, whether you've done any specific research that you can talk about that people might be able to reference, if they're writing a particular topic, they might actually go back to your content or your piece that you've shared and reference that, reference those statistics or that research that you've done as part of their piece, which obviously then, if somebody else reads that and references that because they're talking about that, it's a really good way to kind of increase your reach without, you know, without promoting the fact that you're a researcher. If you can position as yourself as someone that knows, you know, a variety of different amount of research and how that's done, how that's used in the business world, then that will be a really good way forward. I think as well, you know, people are generally more interested in behaviours at the moment, you know, how people are responding to COVID, what businesses are doing, how consumers are shopping, you know, are they spending more time online, which platform are they using, that kind of thing. So if you can get access to that kind of content and share that through your LinkedIn, you will be a great resource for people to go to. I follow loads of other kind of PR and marketing professionals on LinkedIn purely because I know that they're knowledgeable, and that's, you know, some of them might be competitors, but that's absolutely fine because, you know, we're all on LinkedIn at the end of the day, aside from business, is to learn. You know, we can learn things from other people. And if you can be seen as that kind of person too, be someone to learn from, then again, it goes back to Richard's point about trusting you and valuing what you're saying.
Cool, lovely. Sophie, any thoughts?
It's more just like a combination of what you've said, to be honest. Like, it was interesting that you said you've mainly gotten business from word of mouth so far. And that's great because that does build a bit more trust initially from like new potential customers coming to you. But I would just combine what the other guys have said. So like, get your recommendations visually if possible. So like, video would work the best. Even if you did videos yourself on your own LinkedIn, introduced yourself a little bit more, talked about different projects you've worked on already, then linked to your website if you've got one, or anywhere that they could directly contact you if they were to need your services. Try and stay away from purely text posts, if you will, because I feel like they get lost a little bit more, depending on how big your network is particularly as well, and how big your network is, if that makes sense. Might get a little bit lost. And what else did I write down? Try and engage on other people's content as well. Like, don't just expect people to engage with yours, because that just gets your face out there, your name out there a little bit more, especially if you've got your services obviously in your headline. will make people link back to you like subconsciously. But yeah, a combination of what everyone said, I think would just help you massively.
I can't believe I've been remiss to forget as well. Utilize articles on LinkedIn. I know you said you don't necessarily want to just be throwing facts out there because it's available, but the expertise element obviously is important, and kind of taking a blogging approach to sort of LinkedIn articles can be really useful. They also tend to get quite good reach I mean, I'm not Mr. Social, but I've figured that out, that reach is good with articles. So yeah, I would suggest that also.
And go out, use the search functionality in LinkedIn, and go out and look for the prime people you want to speak to, and go out and find them and connect to them. They're just sat there. Connect to them, and yeah, and make a connection with your ideal client. Okay, so I'm just going to go on to the next one, which I think.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
The next one's from Brian. So Brian is looking to market 2 products on LinkedIn to solicitors: a tracing product and a search product. So Brian, can you give us a little bit of context, mate?
Hi, yeah. Yeah, so basically it's a Leeds-based company that work nationally, and doing some work with them on these 2 particular products that that are pushing out to they offer investigations and legal support to solicitors, and it's just to try and sort of get them in front of the right people. They're already doing some LinkedIn work, but it's just how can you sort of craft it for those particular products. I think some of the things you've just said are probably quite relevant, but is there anything else really?
I think legal's quite tricky, because I know a couple of guys who do this. A guy I know really well is Chris Allen at Black Solicitors, and the thing that helps Black Solicitors stand out is they don't talk or act like solicitors at all.
Right.
He's very approachable. The whole company is approachable and open. And I'm not saying that's the right tack to take for your example, but what they are is they're different. So they've got a distinct difference that pulls them out from all the other solicitors, who after all are lots of old men in grey suits, because that's just how the industry is. But what they're doing, what Blacks have always done, is be different, and that helps them stand out. Everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows who Chris Allen is. Blacks stands out by a mile in Leeds, because they're different. And I do know from speaking to him that it has been quite a struggle for him to get the rest of the solicitors to grasp that, because they are in such a conservative industry where they don't like taking risks, they don't like standing out. But it's proven that if you do stand out and you're a bit different and you've got your own unique turn on it, then you will get lifted out of the rest of it. If everyone's grey and you're a little bit less grey, then you'll stand out a bit. And if everyone's grey and you can be a little bit bright red, then maybe you'll stand out a bit more. So I think it's going back to as Gemma mentioned about another question earlier, was what is it that makes them different, and put that forward. Why are they so much better, and put their personality on it. I think that would be the key for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else?
I'd start by building a network. So LinkedIn, I'd be on their account, or on the individuals who make up the company. I'd be on their accounts trying to build up my network of who's the audience for said product. And then, like Richard said, it's about appearing to be different without alienating your audience. So that might be as simple as just a particular twist with the copy, or it might be a full-blown thing of like, look, we're introducing, I'm guessing, cool cutting edge tech into quite a stuffy, sooty industry. So like, play on the fact that we're trying to transform an industry or something. You know what I mean? For me, the knack with this will probably be in the copy, and kind of how, because it's across LinkedIn. So, and obviously how the content is displayed. But yeah, build that network first to obviously make sure that the efforts aren't wasted. And when I've got a decent, like, couple of 100 plus of this particular kind of audience, then I'd start throwing all this content out and kind of maybe experiment. So go to the client and say, how different are you willing to be? How, where's your limit? and kind of what can we play with and see where they're happy. And then I'd start kind of dribbling a few things out and just see, first of all, which gets the best reaction. And then I just run with one personally, kind of see where that goes. So I know it's not massively useful, but just a few practical bits.
That's good.
Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, to add something?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Brian, just kind of from a back to basics point of view, in terms of the product directly, so we all know at the end of the day, one of the reasons that we buy a product is because we need it, or we think we need it. So the challenge is to, you know, kind of get these people to think about why they need that product. And that goes from understanding, first of all, the audience, again, you know, going back to those customers' personas and what are their pain points? How does this product provide a solution to their pain points? And getting that across in your content, you know, whether that's through testimonials from people that have used it, you know, case studies, whether that's talking, you know, bit of a split, you know, you can, while sales message out the way forward, you know, 100% of the time you can talk about things from a, you know, maybe 10% of the time do put that sales message out there. What is the story behind your product? And actually, what is it aiming to do? You know, how can it help them make their lives better? You know, is it so much so that it can actually reduce time so they have more time to focus on what they're doing in their business, in their soliciting work? Does it help them create profit? I don't know much about your products, so I can't kind of advise from that point of view, but just, you know, from a very basic level, really put yourself in the shoes of the people you're trying to target and think about what would make you want to buy that product if you were a solicitor or, you know, somebody in insurance, or, you know, why would you invest in that, especially now as well?
Yeah.
Okay, it's good. We can't have a Zoom call without a dog on, so that's fine.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
Sophie, do you have any thoughts?
No, not more than what you guys have said, to be honest. I'd just be repeating it.
Yeah, that's all right. Not a worry. Okay, so that's all the kind of fed in questions. Does anyone on the call that we've not just talked about have anything that any kind of content problems that they'd like us to discuss? Anything you'd like help with? This is your time to just unmute and let us know. Oh, okay, it's just a little side comment. Sorry. Has anyone got anything, even if it's like a personal thing about how to get if they're unemployed at the moment, how to get a new job, all those kind? Because again, that's all marketing. It's all down to get a positioned content. Sorry, Danielle, you've got your hand up. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. I will go if nobody else has any burning questions. Content has been one of my biggest headaches for such a long time, just in terms of coming up with stuff to constantly and consistently be out there, I guess, and under the noses of my ideal clients. But one of the things that I like to do, and I've done a few times now, and it seems to have worked quite well, is to kind of produce practical resources that people can use. So my business is business improvements. So I help businesses. I'm targeting kind of purpose-driven and sustainability-focused businesses. But what I do is to help them to be more effective and more efficient, and maybe to help them grow by helping them with solutions right across people, processes, technology, and information. Now, clearly, that's quite kind of service-based, and therefore I don't have products that I can take pictures of, or anything like that. Images, incidentally, is my other headache, but I'm kind of stuck as to what I could produce next from a useful resource point of view. So a couple of the things that I've produced so far, just to give you an idea, one was kind of like a checklist really, but it was a series of statements and questions of things that businesses might want to consider when we were first starting to think about kind of moving to a phrase which I now hate, but the new normal. And another one that I produced was a lessons learned template. So it's something that's used a lot in project management, but clearly again was something that businesses could have utilised as we were coming out of the thralls of COVID, just in terms of them being able to understand what they'd done well during lockdown, and then what they could kind of do better. And then another was a personal kind of time and productivity workbook for business leaders to use to help them just kind of really get on top of their workload and make sure that they're kind of of focusing their efforts on the things that are actually really important. So I'm just trying to figure out what else along those lines. I don't know whether that gives you a good enough idea of kind of what I do but just some ideas of more practical, useful things that I could produce that people could actually use, rather than just things that I talk about. You know, trying to show that I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, I think one of the first things to do, as I think I mentioned earlier, is what people want is they want solutions to their problems. So it's rather than kind of going, this is what we do, it's kind of these are the problem. If you've got this problem, we can solve it. So it's about positioning your content in, this is how we solve your problem. People only really care about problems. So yeah, that spin all your content round so that this solves this problem. If you've got this problem, we can solve it. That's going to be kind of the fundamental. I know Chris sent me a quick message. So Chris, you've got some thoughts on this?
Kind of. Just I had a client fairly recently who worked in had a product, but so he's a contractor. He would go in and he would look at people across the business, kind of engagement, but kind of right across the board to kind of business growth, the whole kind of lot. And I kind of did his whole kind of sat with him for the time he was with us, and we found that it's really like the road you're going down is like the right one. That's like what the audience are looking for. It's what they want. What we had to be a bit careful of is that we didn't give the free stuff got so popular that, you know what I mean? So we have to be careful that it's like that there isn't, that the free stuff doesn't create a barrier to the paid. But judging by what you've said so far, that isn't the case. Like that's nothing to do with what you've said so far. Maybe like we did workshops with this client, but obviously that all went remote. But actually he did a half-an-hour webinar every 2 weeks, and it went remarkably well. Like it was so just, and again, it's that expertise, it's you, it's like again the person in front of the prospective clients or industry bods, etc. But that would be a big one for me because it just really worked for him. So yeah, just it doesn't have to be like loads of your time every day or whatever, but if you did half an hour every 2 weeks and kind of it was a regular thing, that would be enough to build kind of. It really surprised me. I didn't think it would work so well, but I think because it like L&D especially, because they're a part of your clientele, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
So they're just in a world where they actually love learning, and I learned that I didn't realize, but like they'll go home and sit on webinars because it's just they love it. So yeah, I'd take full advantage of that, and off the back of that, obviously there can be different kinds of that. So start with one, and maybe you want to do a couple of series. So you might do 1 week, we'll do a webinar that's this. The next we'll do or maybe instead of doing 2 webinars, maybe you do a podcast where on the way to clients, or you know, I don't know what's happening at the moment because of COVID, but you know what I mean, when you're in your car or something, you're just recording yourself talking on a topic, you know, and you can kind of put that, literally all that kind of content. It works, and for your clientele, I've seen it work.
Cool.
So that's cool. Yeah, I'd try that.
Awesome, thank you.
Just to pick up on that's the reason why we're doing bi-weekly webinars, and also why we're doing this event, because obviously what we're doing is we talk about the fact that we're experts in content and marketing. You guys come on, ask us questions, we try to help you. While we're doing that helping, we're recording this one, when we're finished, will be edited and post up to YouTube and then shared out again. So we're kind of making content out of that all the time. Because we're using Zoom in this case, Zoom actually gives you a double track, so that once you recorded this, we get the video and we get the audio. So we could quite easily take the audio and make this a podcast too, all at the same time. So it's about utilizing the stuff you've got, and you can use it a couple of times, so you can get a lot more stretch. You can get a lot more stretch out of things. So while you're gaining leads because people are registering for your webinar, so anyone interested is a lead, so you're gaining leads, you're talking to them about their problems, you're recording it, and you're creating content all at the same time. And it starts to perpetuate, and you become the expert in this content because you've done this raft. And that's what happened with a client that Chris was discussing, who is still running their webinars very, very, very proficiently every other week, and he's still getting, I don't know, I think he might be on like 10 people a webinar every other week, and he's building his pipeline that way.
Brilliant, thank you.
You're welcome. Gemma?
Just wanted to add on that as well. So going back to kind of just the content ideas for those free resources, I wonder if it might be an idea to help you, Danielle, right now, if each of us on this call just quickly tell you, you know, what we've wanted as a priority to know about maybe in the last 2 weeks, because, you know, even yourself, you could just ask yourself the question, what do I wish I had access to that I can't really invest in at the moment? And it might just give you a bit more, one, it shows you how kind of your audience's questions affect the content that you put out, and two, it gives you some easy access to content right now that you could go and develop. You know, if we each just quickly say, sorry?
Good idea, yeah.
If we each just quickly say, you know, actually I've struggled with this, is this something you could develop with?
Yeah, that'd be cool, thank you.
Okay, I'll go first. One of the things I struggle with is prioritization and delegation. As I'm sure the team sat there and go, yeah, Richard, just tell us what you need us to do. I'm really bad at delegation, and I need to get a lot better at that. And again, prioritization, because I do kind of skip around. I'm getting better, and I'm trying to get better at delegation. But yeah, that's a problem that I have, definitely.
Cool.
Anyone else want to fess up?
I'll go.
Yeah, you better.
Yeah. So just kind of listening kind of to briefly what your services you can offer. I know there's probably a hell of a lot more, but one of the things for me is that I've very much, even though the job that I do, I've very much remained in the dark for quite a long time. I was thrown into kind of entrepreneurism and never really did that whole like business development stuff. Got to a point now where I'm like, actually, I wish I knew, you know, I wish there was a resource. It's like, okay, you're already in business, you've been in business for a couple of years, you know, how do you then go back to that initial business development stuff? Because, you know, especially a lot of people will have been pivoting, so that might be quite timely for you right now to you know, almost going back to basics and redeveloping that business and where you want to go.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
Lovely. Okay. We got a question on the comments from Lynn, and Lynn said, where are we? So she's quite exuberant on LinkedIn. That's her personality. I know Lynn. I know that's how she is. But the people that she works for, her business aren't. They're quite conservative and calm. So Lynn says, how can she ensure that she keeps those kind of brand values when she's effectively being the business and not herself? Now, this is something that we do a lot of. So we run our clients' business pages, but for some of our clients, we also run their personal pages as well. So it's really key to understand the personality of that client. We've got one particular client who, Chris will probably smile at this, but he's a really nice guy, but he's straightforward. He's a straightforward man. We'll put it like that. I'm not going to name him names because that's not fair. But he's very straightforward. And so the content we put out as him and for his business has that persona, is that very straightforward. We've got other clients who are a little bit softer and a bit calmer. And so we have to put theirs forward. So the key is always to kind of get a brief. Even if you're working internally, sit down and write down notes and make a persona of kind of the business owners. That's the people you need to represent. Make their persona and say, well, what kind of language would they use? What kind of tone would they use? What kind of images would they use? And refer back to that and keep updating it constantly as you kind of find more information. This is the kind of thing that we do for clients. So if you're working in-house, they're just clients. If they're your boss, that's fine. They're still a client. So create that kind of persona about who they are and what kind of things they would post or the brand would post. And that gives you that consistency and something to refer back to. Hope that helps. So we've got 5 more minutes. Has anyone got anything that they'd like to ask? Helen?
No, I don't think so. No, it's really good, really useful. Thank you.
No problem. So I think the thing to do is on a roundup thing. The thing to do is content can be a struggle to come up with. The real key to it is doing some planning. So start off by planning out who your ideal clients are, what their pain points are, and get all those, or start a document or something, something you can just scribble on a wall. Start by hitting their pain points and work out what they are and how your business solves those problems. Then from there, you've kind of got your kind of spark for what the content is. Once you've got the spark for what your content is, then you need to make a plan and stretch out, okay, what am I going to do this month? What problems does it hit on a certain month? So if you're working in financial services, for example, do you look at when the budget comes out from the government? Do you look at if you're in e-commerce, are you looking at Black Friday? Are you looking at sales? Are you looking at Christmas, New Year? All those things, and planning in when your content will be best used at what time. And by planning it in and then rolling it out, you then need to go back and measure what worked. And then what worked is what you need to amplify, and what doesn't work is what you need to dial down or rethink again. It's also really key to not think that you have to reinvent the wheel on your content all the time. Recycling stuff is fine, because although you might have seen it and you might be bold with seeing the same old posts, the same old content, social media in particular doesn't work like that. It's a stream of consciousness, and just because you've seen it doesn't mean that your ideal customer has seen it yet. And they, again, may need to see it a few times. There's a reason why TV adverts are repeated and repeated and repeated, because they have to do that to kind of hook you in. You have to see a Kellogg's advert. Kellogg's is not a great example. We have to see a Kellogg's advert so many times to go, they've got a new cereal. The first time it passes you by, the second time you might show vague interest. By the 8th or 9th time, it starts to embed that Kellogg's has got a new cereal to come out. So that repetition is actually good. It's too easy to start thinking, I need to start from scratch every time. You don't. So think about being able to reuse your content as well. So yeah, thank you very much for all your time. We've got another webinar on Friday, which you can find on our website if you'd like to join us. We're talking to Natalie Moran from Simon on the Street, so it's a little bit of a different kind of cut. But thank you very much for your time, and if you're going anything else on the Digital Festival, enjoy it. Thanks a lot, guys.